This morning I found myself by a window, watching the light alter, not engaged in any task, simply sitting. I observed how the shadows traveled across the floor, slow and deliberate, with no haste whatsoever. They did not announce their arrival. They did not ask for consent. They simply moved as shadows do while the sun journeys across the sky. And it occurred to me, this is the nature of growing old. Not the darkness so many dread, but this gentle transition, this quiet progression from one quality of light to another. No drama, no tragedy. Merely change occurring as it always has, as it always will. We invest so much time in fearing it, do we not? Old age. We treat it as a kind of penalty, a universal error, as if life is meant to conclude at 40 or 50 and all that follows is a gradual, painful fade into obscurity. But what if that is not the case at all? What if our perspective has been entirely mistaken? What if old age is not about forfeiting anything? What if it is about ultimate liberation? Consider your life in younger years, all that noise, all that perpetual motion. You were forever sprinting towards something or fleeing from something, forever attempting to become someone, forever anxious about opinions, about expectations, about whether you met some invisible, shifting standard you could never quite define. There was an urgency to everything. You had to make something of yourself. You had to demonstrate your significance. You had to construct a career, nurture a family, make an impression, leave some sort of legacy. Underneath it all lay a quiet dread that if you paused for even an instant, you might find you were not really anyone at all. So you persisted, striving, accumulating layers to this construct you called yourself. More accomplishments, more duties, more parts to perform. Parent, worker, friend, neighbor, citizen. You layered them on like winter garments, believing that with enough layers, you would finally feel warm, finally feel secure, finally feel sufficient. But it never truly succeeded, did it? However many layers you added, there was always a sense of something absent, that you ought to be doing more, being more, achieving more. The finish line kept moving. The goal kept changing, and you kept running, wary, questioning when you would finally be permitted to rest. This is what no one tells you. Old age is that rest. Not the rest of death, but the rest of being finally finished with all that nonsense. The rest of no longer having to prove anything to anyone, yourself included. When you grow old, something extraordinary happens. Those layers you built over decades begin to shed. Not because you are failing or diminishing, but because you simply lack the energy to sustain them. And more importantly, you lack the inclination. You look at all that effort you once devoted to being impressive, being important, being someone, and you think, why? What was the purpose? The roles that once defined your entire identity start to loosen. You retire and suddenly you are not your occupation anymore. Your children mature and depart, and you are not primarily a parent anymore. Friends pass away, old routines fade, and one by one all these things you believed were you are not. If you cling to them, if you struggle desperately to hold on, this feels like tragedy, as if everything is being taken from you, as if you are vanishing. But what if you are not vanishing? What if you are finally emerging? What if all those roles were merely costumes you wore, and now at last you can remove them and discover who has been wearing them this whole time? The you, just you. Not you, the important person, or you, the busy person, or you, the needed person. Just this awareness sitting here, breathing, noticing the light on the floor. That is what has been here the entire time. That is what remains when everything else falls away. And that, strange as it may sound, is precisely what peace feels like. Not the peace of possessing everything you desire, but the peace of no longer needing to desire anything at all. Let me speak about being alone for a moment. This is where so many feel fear. They believe old age means loneliness, isolation, being forgotten and left behind. Yes, it is true that as you grow older, you often find yourself with fewer people around. Friends die, family becomes occupied with their own lives. The social world that once felt so crowded and demanding grows still. But here is what I want you to understand. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. Not even close. Loneliness is a type of hunger. It is reaching out and finding no one there. It is craving connection and being denied. It is feeling as if you are on the outside of life watching everyone else belong to something while you drift, unmoored and forgotten. Solitude, however, is something completely different. Solitude is what occurs when you cease reaching out and discover you do not actually need to. It is the realization that you are already complete, already whole, exactly as you are, without anyone needing to validate, witness, or confirm that. When you are with other people, even those you love, there is always a subtle dance occurring. They require something from you or you require something from them. Even in the gentlest, kindest relationships, an exchange takes place. You are being the friend who listens, the parent who advises, the companion who prevents them from feeling alone. You are performing a role, fulfilling a function, meeting an expectation. That is fine. That is how human beings connect. But it is also work, is it not? Effort is involved. A part of you is always slightly activated, slightly performing, slightly conscious of how you are perceived. In solitude, all of that dissolves. You do not have to be anything for anyone. You do not have to maintain any particular version of yourself. You can simply exist, unwitnessed and unjudged, with no need to explain or justify or make sense to anyone but yourself. You can sit in a chair for an hour watching dust motes float in a sunbeam, and no one is there to ask why you are wasting time. You can have tea at 3 in the afternoon or not have tea at all. You can think peculiar thoughts, feel odd emotions, move slowly or quickly or not at all. And there is no audience expecting you to be anything other than exactly what you are in that moment. There is a freedom in that, a looseness, a relief from the constant low-level tension of being observed. I am not saying relationships lack value. They are wonderful. But they are not the only source of meaning or peace or contentment. In old age, when circumstances naturally create more solitude, you have this opportunity to discover something precious, that you are actually quite good company for yourself. You have lived long enough to have interesting thoughts. You have seen enough to find things amusing or beautiful or worth noticing. You do not need someone else to point out that the evening sky is lovely or that the birds are singing. You can appreciate these things directly, immediately, without needing anyone to confirm they are worth appreciating. This is a kind of self-sufficiency younger people rarely cultivate, not because they are incapable, but because they are too busy seeking validation from others. They need someone to witness their joy, their pain, their experiences, to make those experiences feel real. But you have been here long enough to know your experiences are real whether anyone witnesses them or not. The tea tastes good even if you drink it alone. The morning air feels fresh even if no one is there to comment. Your life is happening fully and completely regardless of who is paying attention. Once you truly understand that, once you truly feel it, solitude ceases to be something to fear or avoid. It becomes a gift, a space where you can simply be without performance or pretense, or any need to be anything other than this person in this moment, alive and aware and perfectly, quietly content. That is not loneliness. That is peace. Deep, genuine peace that does not depend on anyone else appearing to make it real. You know what is truly interesting about growing old? You stop caring so much about whether things are impressive. When you are young, you are always trying to make moments special, to make experiences count, to turn ordinary life into something worth recounting. You visit places not just to visit, but to say you visited. You do things not just to do them, but to have done them. There is always an audience in your mind, real or imagined, for whom you are performing. You eat a good meal and immediately consider who you will tell. You see something beautiful and want to capture it. Share it, have someone else validate that yes, this thing is beautiful and you were correct to notice. Even your private pleasures carry a slight shadow of if only someone knew. It is exhausting, truly, because it means you are never fully present with anything. You are always one step removed, already converting the experience into a story, already thinking about how it will sound when described later. But old age does something wonderful to you, if you allow it. It removes the audience. Not because people stop caring about you, but because you stop needing them to care. You stop needing every experience to be validated or witnessed or transformed into something impressive. When that happens, when you finally release the need for recognition, something shifts. Life becomes simpler, more direct, more real. You can drink a cup of coffee in the morning and just drink the coffee. Not think about whether it is good coffee or expensive coffee or the kind of coffee someone interesting would drink. Just taste it. Feel the warmth of the cup in your hands. Notice how the steam rises and vanishes into air. That is it. That is the entire experience. And it is enough. You can take a walk and not need it to be a meaningful walk or a healthy walk or a walk that counts towards some goal. You just walk. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice how the light filters through leaves. Hear sounds without labeling or judging them, or turning them into anything other than what they are. There is a quality of appreciation in this that younger people rarely access. Not because they are incapable, but because they are too busy trying to extract meaning from everything, trying to make their lives accumulate into something significant. But here is what old age teaches you. Life does not need to accumulate into anything. It does not need to mean something beyond itself. A moment can be valuable simply because you are alive to experience it. The taste of bread, the feeling of air on your skin, the sound of rain on a roof. These things do not need to be part of some larger narrative. They are not building toward anything. They are just happening and you are here for them. And that is the entire point. This is a kind of joy that has nothing to do with excitement or stimulation or novelty. It is quiet joy, steady joy, the joy of simply being alive and noticing that you are. You sit in your garden in the late afternoon feeling the sun warm on your hands, and there is a sense of satisfaction. Not because you have accomplished or proven or become anything, but because this moment exactly as it is somehow perfectly fine, perfectly complete. No one is watching, no one needs to know. You are not describing it to anyone or turning it into a memory you will revisit later. You are just here now, experiencing this. And it is enough, more than enough. This is what freedom from the audience looks like. And it is one of the great gifts of old age. The discovery that life can be deeply, genuinely enjoyable without any external validation whatsoever. That you can appreciate beauty, taste, flavor, feel sensation without needing anyone to confirm these things are worth appreciating. You are finally free to just enjoy being alive. Not for any reason, not toward any purpose, just because you are. And this is what being feels like. And it is actually quite wonderful when you stop demanding it be anything more. Now, let me tell you about expectations, because this is where most suffering resides. We do not even realize we carry them most of the time. They are so familiar, so ingrained. They feel like truth rather than choice. Your children should visit more often. They should call, they should remember, they should appreciate everything you did for them. Your body should still function as it used to. You should be able to do what you could 20 years ago. Your friends should stay in touch. Your life should feel settled by now. You should have figured things out. You should be happy. Should. It is a kind of violence, truly. This constant measurement of what is against what should be. It means you are never actually here with what is happening. You are always in some imaginary version of reality, where things are different, better, more aligned with your preferences. The gap between those two realities, between what is and what should be, that gap is where disappointment lives, where resentment lives, where that constant low-level dissatisfaction makes its home. You are sitting with your grandchild, but you are also thinking they should visit more often. So the actual visit is tainted by resentment about all the visits that did not happen. You are eating dinner alone, but you are comparing it to dinners from 20 years ago when the house was full. So you cannot actually taste the food or enjoy the quiet, because you are too busy mourning what is absent. It is a trap, and it is entirely self-created. Because here is the truth about expectations. They are not observations about reality. They are stories you tell about how reality should be different. And those stories, no matter how reasonable they seem, no matter how justified you feel, they separate you from your actual life. Your actual life is what is happening right now. Your children visit as often as they visit. Your body moves as well as it moves. Your friends are as present as they are able to be. This is reality. This is what is. You can spend your remaining years arguing with it, insisting it should be different, maintaining a constant state of disappointed resistance. Or you can relax, let go, stop demanding life conform to your mental blueprints. Old age, if you are paying attention, does this naturally. You have been disappointed enough times to start seeing the pattern. The things you expected rarely arrived as imagined. The outcomes you were certain of did not materialize. The people you thought would act one way acted another. Life just kept doing what it does, completely indifferent to your preferences. Gradually, through sheer repetition, you begin to understand. You start to see that your expectations do not control anything. They do not make things happen. They do not protect you from disappointment. They just create unnecessary suffering. So you begin, slowly, to release them, not through force or discipline, but through simple exhaustion. You are just too tired to keep arguing with reality. Too tired to keep insisting things should be different. In that exhaustion, that letting go, something unexpected happens. A peace arrives. Not the peace of getting what you want, but the peace of no longer being at war with what you have. Your daughter visits once a month instead of once a week. All right. When she does visit, you can actually listen to her voice instead of tallying all the times she did not. Your knees hurt when you climb stairs. Fair enough. You can appreciate the stairs you can still climb instead of mourning the mountains you once hiked. This is not resignation. This is not giving up or settling or accepting less than you deserve. This is something far more radical. It is the recognition that your expectations were never serving you. They were just creating distance between you and your actual experience. Without them, you are free to meet life as it comes. Each moment fresh. Each interaction uncontaminated by resentment about past interactions or anxiety about future ones. Each experience allowed to be exactly what it is without being measured against some imaginary standard. There is a lightness to this, a kind of emotional ease that does not depend on circumstances being any particular way. You are not happy because things are going well. You are at peace because you have stopped demanding they go any particular way at all. Your life is your life. These are your days. This is your body, your family, your particular collection of joys and sorrows and ordinary moments. You can spend your energy wishing it were different, or you can spend your energy actually living it. Old age offers you this choice, over and over, until you finally grow tired enough of suffering to choose peace instead. And peace, it turns out, was always available. You just had to stop expecting something else long enough to notice it. There is something I want you to understand about who you are. I believe this is where the real freedom of old age lies, and most people miss it entirely. For your entire life you have believed you were your roles. You believed you were the job title, the family position, the social function. You were the teacher, the accountant, the parent, the reliable one, the successful one. These were not just things you did. They felt like the very core of your identity. Society reinforced this constantly. When people asked who you were, they meant what do you do? Your worth was measured by your productivity, your usefulness, your contribution. You mattered because you fulfilled functions, because people needed you, because you played your part in the great machinery of social life. But then you grow old and all of that begins to dissolve. You retire and you are not your profession anymore. Your children mature and stop needing you in the same way. Friends pass on, responsibilities diminish. The roles that gave your life structure and meaning fall away one by one. Most people panic at this point. They feel as if they are disappearing, becoming nobody. Because if you are not your roles, then what are you? Here is the truth that old age reveals. If you are willing to see it. You were never your roles. You were never actually that job or that title or that function. Those were just temporary arrangements, things you did for a while. Ways you participated in the world. But they were never you. You, the actual you that has been here the whole time, you are something much simpler, much larger than any role could contain. You are the one who has been aware, the one who has been present. The consciousness that has been noticing everything, experiencing everything throughout your entire life. When you were 5 years old, running through a field, there was someone there experiencing that. When you were 20, falling in love, someone was there feeling that. When you were 40, stressed about work, someone was aware of that stress. And now, at whatever age you are, someone is here, perceiving these words, thinking these thoughts. That someone, that awareness, that is what you actually are. And it has not changed. It has not aged. It is the same presence now that it was when you were 5. The circumstances are different. The body is different. The roles are different. But the one experiencing it all that has been constant. This is what remains when all the roles fall away. Not nothing, not nobody, but this pure experiencing. This awareness that does not need a job title or a social function to exist. Here is what is remarkable about this. This awareness, this presence, it is not separate from the universe. It is not some isolated thing trapped inside your body. It is actually part of the same consciousness that runs through everything. The same awareness that looks out through your eyes looks out through every living thing. The same energy that moves through you moves through trees, through water, through wind, through stars. You are not a separate self having experiences. You are the universe experiencing itself through this particular form for this particular time. When you truly understand this, when you truly feel it, something profound shifts. You realize you are never actually alone. Even when every human connection falls away, even when you sit by yourself in complete silence, you are still held by something vast. You are still part of the whole ongoing process of existence. The birds outside your window, the same consciousness expressing itself differently. The trees in your garden, the same energy, different form. The sky, the clouds, the earth beneath your feet, all of it including you. One continuous unfolding of being. Nature does not ask anything of you. It does not need you to be important or productive or useful. A tree does not justify its existence. A river does not earn its right to flow. They just are, and so are you. You are just as natural, just as valid, just as much a part of things as anything else that exists. You can sit on the ground and feel the earth beneath you. And you are not sitting on something separate from yourself. You are one part of the earth touching another part of the earth. You are the earth being aware of itself. You can look at the sky and realize the same atoms that compose those clouds once composed other things and will compose still other things. Nothing is lost. Everything just changes form. The substance of the universe rearranging itself endlessly, and you are part of that rearrangement. This is the companionship old age offers. Not the replacement of human relationships with philosophical concepts, but the recognition of a belonging that was always there. You belong here. You are meant to be here. You are as natural and necessary as rain or wind or the turning of seasons. This belonging does not depend on you doing anything or being anyone in particular. It is not earned or achieved. It just is. You are part of the whole, and the whole is completely fine with you being exactly as you are. Slow, wrinkled, alone, quiet. However you are still part of everything. Still held. Still home. This is what is here when the social structures fall away. Not emptiness, but fullness. Not isolation, but connection to something so vast and so immediate you cannot actually be separate from it. You are the universe growing old in this particular form. And the universe does not judge that. It does not think old age is a failure or a tragedy. It is just one phase of an endless transformation. You are, quite simply, nature being natural, and there is nothing more peaceful than that. So here we are, then, at the conclusion of this reflection, though nothing truly concludes, does it? Everything just transforms, continues, becomes something else. I want you to understand something. Old age is not a mistake. It is not a punishment for having lived too long. It is not a slow catastrophe where everything good gradually disappears. That is just the story we tell ourselves because we are afraid. The actual truth is simpler and kinder. Old age is the moment when life finally stops asking so much of you, when demands ease, when roles dissolve, when you are finally permitted to just be here without justification, without purpose, without needing to become anything other than what you already are. The wrinkles on your face are not evidence of decay. They are a map of every expression you have made, every emotion you have felt. Every year you have been alive and responsive to life. They are beautiful in their way, honest, real. The slowness of your movement is not weakness. It is an invitation to notice things you used to rush past, to feel each step, to be present with the simple act of moving through space. There is a grace in slowness that speed never discovers. The quiet of your days is not emptiness, it is spaciousness. Room to breathe, room to think, room to simply exist without the constant noise of obligation and expectation. You are not less than you were. You are different than you were. And different is not diminishment, it is just change. Natural, inevitable, necessary change. The you that exists now, the you perceiving these words, you are complete, whole, exactly as you should be at this moment. Not lacking anything, not missing anything, not failing at anything. You have lived. You have experienced so much. You have felt joy and pain and everything between. You have loved and lost and continued anyway. You have done your best, whatever that looked like. And now you get to rest. Not the rest of giving up, but the rest of being done with the struggle. Done with trying to prove yourself. Done with chasing some future moment when you will finally be enough. You are enough now. You always were. This time you have left, however much or little it may be, is not a countdown to nothing. It is just more life. More moments, more chances to notice the light on the floor, the taste of tea, the sound of birds, the feeling of being alive. Life does not need to be dramatic to be valuable. It does not need to be exciting or productive or meaningful in some grand sense. A quiet afternoon is just as much life as anything else. A slow walk, a long silence, a simple meal. These are not lesser experiences. They are just gentler ones, and gentleness, it turns out, is what you have been moving toward all along. Not through intention, but through simple attrition. The roughness worn away. The urgency released. The constant striving finally set down. What remains is peace. Not the peace of having everything figured out, but the peace of no longer needing to figure anything out. Not the peace of achievement, but the peace of acceptance. Deep, quiet, uncomplicated acceptance of this moment, this body, this life exactly as it is. You do not need to wait for anything else to feel this. You do not need anyone's permission or validation. You do not need to earn it or deserve it or become someone worthy of it. It is already here. You are already here in this moment, breathing, aware, alive. That is the whole thing. That is all it ever was. Just this presence, this ongoing experience of being. And when the time comes, as it comes for everything, when this particular wave settles back into the ocean, it will not be a tragedy. It will be natural, a completion, a return to the source. The ocean does not mourn individual waves. It just keeps moving, keeps being, keeps expressing itself in endless forms. And you are one of those forms, temporary, beautiful, part of the whole. Your life does not need to go on forever to matter. It matters because it happened. Because you were here. Because for this brief time, the universe expressed itself as you. And that was enough. That was always enough. So rest, stop fighting. Stop worrying. Stop trying to be more than you are. Just be here in this moment, in this body, in this life. Listen to the quiet. Feel the peace. Notice the light. You are home. You always were. And whatever time remains, spend it gently. Spend it being exactly what you are. A natural part of this world, living naturally, aging naturally, resting naturally into the great peace that holds everything. The universe asks nothing more of you than your presence. And here you are, present, aware, alive enough